Before moving to Chicago, I thought there was a distinct possibility that I would get lost in this big city, that I would get swallowed up by an area that contains 10 million plus people. But after having lived here for nearly 3 months, I can say that is absolutely not what has happened. Even though everybody says when you move to the big city, you're going to feel alone. You're going to feel isolated. You're going to be all by yourself. It's going to be hard to make friends. It's going to be hard to build a community. It's going to be hard to feel integrated in your local environment because everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody's a rugged individual. Everybody's a maverick trying to make it on their own, trying to hit it big, especially those in New York and LA, trying to become a pop star or a Broadway singer. That is absolutely not what I have experienced here in Chicago. In fact, I have never felt more connected to my neighborhood and city in my life. And this is coming from somebody who spent 26 years in Pittsburgh, which is not a small town relative to that of a very small town in Nebraska, Wyoming, Iowa, etc. But in comparison to Chicago, New York, LA, certainly a Mumbai with 22 plus million people, it is a small town. And living back in Pittsburgh made me feel far more isolated, far more alone, far more on my own than here in Chicago, because back in Pittsburgh, even though there was far less space to work with, even though people were condensed into this little tiny cityscape around the three rivers, I didn't feel like people actually connected with each other, because if you've ever been to Pittsburgh, you know that the main city center has been pretty much hollowed out. There isn't a ton going on down there. There's a few bars, there's a couple after hours clubs, but driving through there during the day or at night, you're not getting a lot of activity. Most of the activity goes on in Bloomfield, Shady Side, South Side, North Shore, etc. But these areas are neighborhoods. And even when they're popping, it's people that are going out and then going back home. People coming from the suburbs, people coming from different neighborhoods in the city. It's a lot of transitory behavior where you go out and then you come back. You go out and you come back. You're not integrated into the neighborhood. Yes, of course, people in Lawrenceville, they're getting more integrated because they have their apartment and they're shopping here, and maybe they do their thing over here. But by and large, the city of Pittsburgh is not this place where you have a ton of walking to the local corner store, or seeing your buddy at the gas station who always hooks you up on a deal, or meeting up with somebody by chance just walking down the street. You don't have this really tight-knit sense of neighborhood in Pittsburgh like you do in a city like Chicago. And maybe that offends people back in Pittsburgh. If it does, perhaps this is just my subjective experience, but I drove full-time in the city for over 5 years. I took 15,000 plus rides. I know Pittsburgh like the back of my hand. I know every street in that place. I know how the neighborhoods function. I know how the people think. And what I found to be true is that by and large, people in Pittsburgh, people in small towns like Pittsburgh, people in places that are straddling this middle ground between very small Nebraska town where everybody knows everybody, where you went to a school with 20 kids maybe, and a city like New York, LA, Chicago, when you're in that middle area, people set up their fortresses, people set up their castles, people set up their humble estates, and they protect those estates with their lives. Now, of course, it's property, it has value, you want to protect your asset. But people become very psychologically attached to their house or their townhouse or their condo in a city like Pittsburgh. And they guard it, and they isolate themselves within it. This has only accelerated since 2020. We all know what happened. The world has never been the same. People spend more time inside. They don't walk out in their communities. They don't shake hands with somebody they don't know. They don't talk to people that they've never been introduced to before, especially in Pittsburgh, because if you go to Mount Lebanon or Beachview, if you go to Mount Oliver, a little bit less of that at Mount Oliver because it's a little bit poorer. People walk here and there to get to the corner store, to get to the gas station, to go get booze, get chicken, whatever. But by and large, in the neighborhoods surrounding Pittsburgh, there's not a lot of walking to here and then walking to there and then walking to here and running into this person. It's very much car driven. It's very much, oh, I'm going to drive out just to get something. I'm going right back home. I don't want to venture out. I don't want to have a little mysterious encounter with somebody new. I don't want to chance myself with that. And there's nothing wrong with that lifestyle, but in the big city, you can't avoid talking to people. You can't avoid being around people and just being around new folks, people that you're probably not even going to talk to. Certainly not people you're going to build long-term relationships with, because it's very rare, especially if you think you're going to meet somebody down off Wabash here in Chicago, just coming off the train, and you're going to make some long-term relationship, some lasting friendship. Probably not likely, probabilistically, but just being around people invigorates your spirit. It sparks curiosity. It gets your mind working. It puts images in your brain that you can manipulate, that will further transform as you continue to move through your day, because you get so much stimuli. And when you're open to all these new people, you don't know what good and bad can come from that. But especially when you're a creative, you don't care about good and bad, so long as it's not you being in a state where you no longer have consciousness. As long as you're alive, the good and the bad doesn't really matter as a creative and as somebody that wants to live an adventurous life. So if you're in a small town and you feel isolated, even though you're around all of the same people you've known forever, people that you probably don't even try to talk to in any new way because you've filed them in your cabinet of data as, this is this person and they do this and they like this sport and they dated XYZ, and you don't try to get anything new out of them because you just know them. You've put them in a filing cabinet. That's what happens in small towns. But in the big city, everybody's a fresh canvas. Everybody's a blank slate, and you get to learn from them and you get to interact with them, and you get new data, new stimuli all the time. And you're able to build new bonds because, especially here in Chicago, a lot of people aren't from here. A lot of people come from other cities. So you really get to start off on a new foot and completely transform who you are, how you think, what you see to be true, what you see to be false, what you want out of life. It's just something I picked up on. And the reason why I made this video is because I was talking to an Uber passenger today about it. He is currently living in a small town in Arizona, and he says, man, oh man, I don't like it down there at all. It's very quiet, it's very peaceful, lots of nature, beautiful in the winter, lovely when it's cold here in Chicago. But he was born and raised here, and he says, man, I cannot wait to get back here because I love going down to the corner store, getting what I need, getting some groceries for 2-3 days, chopping it up with this person, and then being able to walk to my friend's house, and then, okay, work is close, I can walk there, bike there, take the train there, whatever. Life is more fluid, life is more active. You feel more alive because, in truth, death only occurs when movement stops. As long as movement is continuing, death has not arrived. Death is still waiting to get its bite, to get its shot. So keep moving, keep going. And if you want to keep moving and keep going, come to a big city like Chicago, go to New York, go to LA, go somewhere where things are happening. Now, if you want a quiet, stable life, get a cheap place in Indiana or Iowa, stay in your small town. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just my experience that living in a small town, even though you may know your neighbor, quote unquote, because you went to high school with them and you have this file of data on them that you haven't updated in years because you're not curious enough to do so, you don't really get to know people, if that makes sense, which it may not, but it makes sense to my brain. In any case, let me know what you think about this. Do you think small towns are more communal, make you feel less alone, less isolated? I don't necessarily think so. I think you can feel very much at home, very much a part of a community in a big city like Chicago, so long as you're willing to have an open spirit and actually connect with people. But of course, people aren't doing that, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the next video. So stay tuned. Much love, peace. This is New Da Vinci. Have a blessed night.